Okay, so you carried her and she did not miscarry. You
No.
actually gave birth to her.
Yeah.
And uh, how, how do I how do I ask this? I don't know. What was what was that process like for you?
Yes. So she was born at 36 and 6. So just a day short of full term, which was um, really miraculous and
Hmm.
incredible. Um, God was really faithful to answer so many of the prayers that we had. I mean, I will be honest that there was unanswered things too, but we prayed for so many different aspects of this pregnancy and delivery. And one of the things um, that I really had hoped for was to not have to be induced or not have to go in for a C-section. I just didn't, those weren't things that I wanted to do. I would have done them if I needed to, but we had a doctor's appointment in which we went in and the doctor said, we're probably going to have to induce you in the next week. Um, One of the physical challenges that Iris had is that she couldn't swallow. And so I
Mm.
had been retaining so much amniotic fluid that at 36 and 6, I was actually measuring at 42 weeks
Oh,
because I
wow.
had so much fluid. And there's a medical term for that. I should really remember all these things, but I don't. But basically we were going to have to be induced because of all the fluid.
Hmm.
Um, and I went into labor that night. After
Wow.
following that doctor's appointment and that phone call from our doctor, I went into labor and she was born within 24 hours of that um, appointment. And
Wow.
that was just an answered prayer. And I will not go into the details of delivery, but I mean, there was emotional trauma from that.
Of
But
course.
physically, it was very similar to the delivery I had with my son.
Hmm.
Um, it was pretty quick. And so there was just things that I was just grateful for, that it could have looked very different and been a lot more challenging
Hmm.
than it was, and it actually was pretty smooth and pretty easy for the circumstances.
Yeah,
So God was faithful
that's
to
good.
to give us a really great team at the hospital too. There was so many nurses and doctors that were just incredibly helpful.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
How long did she live?
she lived 9 days.
Okay,
So
wow.
we knew just from the process of diagnosis and everything that we learned during the pregnancy, we knew that if she survived her birth and lived beyond the hospital, that our goal would have been to bring her home on hospice,
Hmm.
just so that she could come home to our house and we could enjoy her for as many days as God gave her. And so we were able to do that. We left within probably like 24 hours of her being born. We brought her home on hospice. Um, and she was home here with us for 9 days. And
Wow,
then,
wow. Yeah, yeah. A precious 9 days, I'm sure.
yeah, a
Especially
whirlwind.
a whirlwind. Yeah,
Yeah.
hard, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but still precious. And because
Yes.
she was precious.
Yeah.
I have heard you say this before, that you saw Iris as a child with her own identity, loved by God, cherished by God. Did you have that? Did you hold that all the way through? Did you see it that way? Am I
I would
putting word
say
am I putting words in your mouth?
no.
No.
God really helped keep me grounded. Um, for the most part. I mean, there were
Mhm.
moments of desperation where I was probably not real aware of what was happening just because
Mhm.
it was a long 9 days.
Yeah.
Um, but I always felt a real peace, honestly, about her having her own story. That
Mhm.
it's kind of how I view parenting. Like we are given children as a gift. They don't belong to us.
Mhm.
And I knew that with Theo, but Iris just there was no option to think otherwise with her, because I had so little control over the circumstances of her life. Everything that I would have imagined or planned went out the window when I got the phone call from my doctor at 9 weeks. There was, at that point, you're just, she belongs to God, and her story is her own story, and her identity and her hope and everything is in what Jesus has done for us. Like her story highlights the hope that we have because Jesus died for us. Without that, then I feel like her story would be really purposeless, and it would be really frustrating, and it would feel like for nothing. But the reality of Jesus is so much more real when you have a child who has circumstances that you can't change, and a prognosis that is, I mean, most doctors would just say this is fatal. She is incompatible with life. I mean, really harsh language that felt like, but she's still our baby. Like she's still a precious human being.
And you still call her by name in such a way that has such tenderness. And I really appreciate that, because that sort of exemplifies everything that you've just been talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is very much, and she's a part of our family. I think, like, as much as that's somewhat limited because we had such short amount of time with us, she is still, we have photos up of her in our house. Theo still talks about her. I would say, if not daily, at least every other day. His teacher at school knows about her because when he draws family portraits, she is in those family portraits. She is just, yeah,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.